What's up, CW fans? I'm going to be doing part 3 to the CFT1 build here, and I have to say I royally screwed up, but it was really cool because I reached out to Jonathan to ask him about the whole capacitor thing from last episode, and he's like, he was super polite about it, and I'm super embarrassed about it because I've been doing this for like 30 years and I wasn't paying attention, thinking about it. But I said, hey, I think I don't have like the right capacitor or whatever because, it was showing a K1J on it. And he's like, just flip it over. So let's check this out. So here was the capacitor in question, and of course it does say K1J. So I'm going to flip it over here and slide it in there. And there it is. It is in fact a 301. So I'm going to drop this bad boy into the board here and get that done. And then we're going to pick it up in just about a second or two with continuing on with these potentiometers and getting these installed. So back to the program here, part 3. We just installed the 5K trim pot RV2, which is down here. I've got that installed there, and before my video got rudely interrupted, we're on page 20, and we're on the RevD V17. That's the one that I've got. So the next set, we need to get 2 of the 10K trim pots, RV1 and RV5. They're both right down here, and we're going to get those set and install them. So these are them. Let's see here. Let's make sure. Yep, I think that's one, and then that's the other one. As a matter of fact, I think all 3 of these are all 10Ks, so we should be, we should be good. So we're going to pop these in here. There's one. Sorry, my hands are in the way, but that's 1. That's 2. Put those in there. I'm just going to flip this upside down and just slightly bend a couple of these pins left and right. Kind of like so that it doesn't fall out. And what I can do is come on over here with the soldering iron. Get these put back into shape. So there's 1. Down there for an extra second. There's 2. There's 3. So I'm holding the soldering iron against the lead and then on the pad also, just touching it against there, so gets it on there nice, quick, and easy. Trim off these little pieces. I like to just put my thumb on them so that the little piece doesn't go flying, because sometimes it'll go flying in it. I just don't want it to go flying somewhere that I don't want it to go. Not that I know where I really want it to go, but whoops. And there we go. Just drop those down there. Okay, so that's the 5K or the 10K trim pots, right? The next one, we're going to install the electrolytic capacitors. That's what they look like. And note that there is a polarity band on one side, usually white with some arrows, and then it has a little negative side sign there. If it's some kind of weird misprint or if something came off or whatever, you can always tell positive lead is always longer, negative lead is always shorter. And it looks like we have 2 capacitors right at the bottom there. So let's take a look at our board. And sure enough, they've got, there's 1, there's the other one. And you can see that, you might not be able to see, but there's a little plus right over here. And that lets you know that The plus side is on the left side, and then this white shaded area is for the negative. So you can see negatives at the top, plus is on the bottom. So let's find our electrolytics. All right, I've got 2 of them. So we're going to do the plus on the left, negative on the right. I'm just going to spread the leads underneath while I hold this down flush to the board. I'll do the same with this one. Hold it down, spread the lead like at a 45-degree angle on either side so that they're not going to pop out. And that's what it looks like. So we'll do that. Get some solder flowing on these. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And there's 4. Oh, come on. There's 4. I think I knew somebody that liked to clip off all of the leads when they were completely done with the project, and I think that's complete insanity, but if that's something that you like to do, that's cool. And it looks like the electrolytics are nice and mounted. They're not hot. Like I didn't put the soldering iron on there that long, which you don't want to put the soldering iron on these components for a long time. Some of them can handle it, but most of them can't, and I just don't like to take the chance. So that's step 8, electrolytic capacitors. We're going to throw the barrel jack on there. So what is the barrel jack? So looks like, I think this is the barrel jack, which is for 12 volt power, right? And that's going to go right here. Awesome. So I'm not going to be able to really bend any pins. So you're going to have to do some like finger gymnastics, right? So I'm going to use my quad hands, hold this down. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take enough solder and wrap it around my finger like that. So then I'll hold the part with my middle finger and then take the solder around my index finger and position it enough so that I can hold the part in there, hold the solder against the part, and start getting it to flow. Now I can take my middle finger off and solder normally. So sometimes soldering is kind of funky. It gets frustrating. You have to do some little gymnastics every once in a while. But in the end, it works out okay. The quad hands help a ton. Looks good. Everything's cool, right? Awesome sauce. I usually have, I don't know what happened to them, but I usually have some rubbers on these quad hands so that it doesn't like chooch up the holes that much. And I know I'm kind of a little bit offset here on the video, but I wanted to make sure we saw what's going on the iPad. So that was the barrel jack. Let's come down to the BNC connector. So we're already on step 10. So again, another one of these situations where we can put the BNC connector. Oh, it kind of snapped in. It might actually stay. Let's see if we can get lucky. We'll do that. And let's see, which one do I want to tackle? Let's try one of these big lugs here. Might take a second to warm up. There we go. There we go. Nice flow. Good. And then these two right here. There's one real quick. Another. I think I need a little bit more on this guy. All right, we're going to call it good. So we have a barrel connector. BNC, right? That's cool. That's what it's looking like. It's coming together quick. What else do we have here? Next is we're going to install the 2x11 pin socket. So there are two things here that kind of look like each other, right? So this is the socket because it's got sockets in there, right? And then this is like a pin header that we'll use in another spot here. So we're going to take this thing here, and we have to pay attention to the what's going on here. So this is underneath the board, right? Where we were just doing, we just put this in here. It's going to go into this spot, but underneath. So let's give that a shot. Matter of fact, I might have to employ some of my soldering gymnastics to make this happen. So I'm just going to spin this around like so. So I can have like a mobile finger to do some stuff. And I'm just going to like drop some solder into one of these. So we got that. And then I think we should be good. That's going to hold it pretty decently. As a matter of fact, let's reorient this so I can kind of do the soldering a little bit more efficiently. So I'm just going to run through each of these. I'm going to make sure that this pin, these pins are, or I should say this header is flush against the board. So you can see ooh, ow, that hurt. I'm pushing on the underside with my finger. And of course, when I heated up this pin with solder, my finger was on the underside of this pin, and that was a little ouchy. So let's knock the rest of these out. So of course, you can fast forward this about 30 seconds. And you don't want to do a solder bridge on any of these, meaning you don't want the solder to flow to the next pin and touch two pins together, right? That's a no-no. So trying to do this with the camera and everything is a little difficult, but it's okay. I want to make sure, I'm just going to tap this for a second just to make sure the solder's flowing in, around, and into that hole a little bit. Come on, baby. And remember, I already did that very first one, so we don't need to. And let's just, this one looks a little shiny. All right, so I think that's good. I think we did it. Double check this a little bit, make sure it looks decent, I think. I'm going to, I'm not sure if you can see, but some of the solder's kind of, I call it like they kind of bulbed a little bit. So I'm just gonna like hit it and make sure it flows. Just redo some of them. Go. Whoop, see that? I did a solder bridge. Not good. Oh, man, I just did another one. Not good. All right, cool. So I'm going to, there's probably a little excess solder on the tip here, so I'm just gonna, I've got a little thing up here where I can knock the solder off. So I think that looks pretty good. So we've got that going. All right, now the board's upside down. Let's double check to make sure nothing weird happened. Looks like it's good. No issues. It's flat against the board, so we should be happy. Let's, I didn't melt any plastic, which is good. That's the risk, right? So let's see here, what's next? We're gonna install the IRF 510 MOSFET. So I think this might be a good time to take a break. We will kind of get our things situated because this MOSFET's gonna take a minute or two to put in. We need to do a little prep to put the this little standoff on the board, and then we'll be right back to get cooking on part 4. So we'll run through step 12 and get all the way to winding our toroids. So that'll be a blockbuster episode. So next one, we're going to install the MOSFET, and then we're going to do some toroid action. So it's going to be fun.